Now let's work it out. This is what we have as matrix. And the first thing that we do, we make this row, first row, first column to be as 1. Okay. So since it's 1, as you can see, we already have 1. We're going to switch to this column that's come underneath. So we're going to try to make this column as 0. Okay, this is what we're going to try to do. And in a way to make it 0, what we do is we're going to use to make use of row. So we're going to find a way so that we can cancel out the question. What we have here, we know that if I have to write in terms of row, so to be row, we need to make this row into 0. Which one is it? It's 1. This is the row that we got there. Okay, in what way we can make this one equal to 0? Okay, this is what we are trying to accomplish. In what way we can make that row equal to 0? And then another question, this row here where we have 1, in what way this row could be equal to 0? What are the conditions that we're going to pose to make it equal to 0? So let's start with this row first. Okay, so what we going to have, and let me just also mention, this is row 1, this is row 2, and this is row 3. So actually all of this is row 2, and all of this row 2, so row 3. So now what we have here, so we, in what way, in order to make row 12 equal to 0, so what we do is we're going to subtract row 12. Remember that if you're solving for row 12, you need to put it this side, so it will be we're going to apply this to this okay, so we're going to have something like this. I'm going to just write the form that I always use. Now what we're going to do is what can you do to make this row 2 so that the 2 here can be cancelled out. Okay, and then what I always do is, I know that we actually trying to remove that 2. So let's assume, for example, we need to find the answers to what can we add. Okay, we're going to solve it using we could use row 1 because this is where we started. Let's use row 1. So we're going to take these 2 row. This is what you see here. So we're going to add them or subtract them so that we can get our answer. So what we're going to do is, I know we're working with R1. That's R1. R1, what is the value of R1 here? It's actually 1 if we take this row. So it's that column is actually 1. So it's gonna be 1. What can I do to make this 1 minus 2 equal to 0? I need to times it by 2. That's what we do. And this is what we're going to use to solve. And just correct, I'm going to remove that 1 there. This is what we're going to do so that we can cancel out that 2 so we can get 0. Next, what about row 3? Where is row 3? This is where we have this is row 3. So but we're focusing only on the first column. That's where we have our main focus. Okay, and what we do here is like we did with the other one. So we know R13, what is the value? It's actually 1. Okay, let's just go with negative to see if and then since we're working with R1, now what you see here, yes, we can just let's just stick to R1. It's fine. I was going to select R2, but let's stick with R1. Okay, it's actually R1. So what is R1 here? It's actually 1. So it's, if you see those form, it's actually satisfied. We're still gonna get 0. So that's why we're not gonna try to modify or add anything. So we're going to take R1 negative R2 R3, or maybe the other way around. So if I have to put it the other way around, it should be it will be okay. Okay, we'll go with this one. We're still gonna get the answer as 0. So let me apply this here. Okay, we take row 2. Let's start by row 2. Okay, so this is what we have. Let me go fast this time. Okay, this is what we have. Now what we're trying to do is we're trying to make these two 0. So in order to solve those two, to make them 0, the formula that we use, we're going to multiply R2. We start first with R2. 2, 1 minus, this is what we'll do. And what is going to become with our matrix, this is where we have our R2. So what R2 is going to become, we have something like this. Here we got 1. So I'm going just to continue with the rest. So, and only keep R3 for the last, as last. So it's gonna be, to get R2, it will be R1. Okay, so if I have to extend this, it will be let me solve for the first row. Okay, let me go with if I have to solve for the first one, so it's gonna be 2 times what is R1 here, R1 equal to 1, and R3 equal to 1, so it will be R1 equal to 1, R2 equal to 2, so it's gonna be negative 2, and the answer would be 0. So I'm going to get 0, to put 0 here. Since we have solved for 0, that's what I'm going to have there. Let's solve this one. We're going to use the same formula, so it will be 2 times R1. What is R1? It's 2. Okay, negative R2, which is 3. This will give us 1 from negative 3, so we have a 1 here. Okay, and we're going to do the rest similar to this one. So we get, and we go for the next one, it should be 2 times R1. What is R1? R1 is actually 3, so we're going to have 3 negative R2, which is 5. And then it's gonna give us 5, which is, the answer would be just 0. Okay, now let's continue. 2 and 1, and then 2 and 1, so it's gonna be r1 which is 2, negative r2 which is 1 will be equal to 3. So we got ourselves this form. We're not done yet. There's more that we need to do. Okay, and before we go, there's this error here that I'm going to correct. So this is 6 negative 5, which gives us 1. So we're going to have a 1 here. Okay, and this is what we'll get. Now let's apply the second formula. So I'm going just if you need this, I will put underneath this section. So now we're going to use to apply the other formula. This is what we're going to apply. This one, R1. Then I'm going just to copy this block and then do this section. So now we got this section. So we need to find the answer to this, and this is the formula we're gonna use. Okay. Now for R3, since we'll be solving R3, and then where's R3? This is where we have R3. This is where we're gonna put our values. So we start. We're going to solve using only R1. So it will be this row plus and that row. So R3, we start with the first column. So what I'm going to have is gonna be 1 and 1. So which is going to give me 0. So it will be 1, negative 1, it's gonna give me 0. So that's why we're going to have a 0 here. Okay, next it will be R3 negative R1, which is 3 negative 2, which gives us 1. So we're going to have a 1 here. Okay, next R4 negative R3. Okay, R5, oh, R3 negative 2, negative R1. So it will be R3 negative 2, which will give us 3. Okay, so this is what we will get, and this one is going to change into 1. This is what we will get. Okay, and from here what we do next, and then as you can see, this satisfy what we need to do. Okay, and then if you have to, what is next is this row. Remember that we said here, so we're going to start with this one. You go for this column, and then we switch to this row and make it 0. So that's what we do next. So now in order to make that row 0, okay, we're going to focus on we're going to make it 0. There are three columns that we're going to work with, which is going to be C2, C3, C4. Okay, and from what I can tell, this is the one that we're going to make use. It's actually, since it's let me just write it in the way that it's much easier to tell. Okay, this is what this is how I've named this column. Now in what way we can make them 0. Okay, our main goal is to make those first row 0. In what way we can do that? Okay, and then let's say and then just to name them correctly, I'm going just to, so let me just move this one maybe it's at the top this way, and then this is what we can actually say: C1, C2, C3, C4, colon 1, colon 2. So we're going to make this column into 0. Okay, that's what we'll be doing. Now we start with the first one. It will be in such a way we have C2. In what way can you make it 0? If we focus on the first that we have on C2. So I know that we're going to have a C2 here. Maybe negative, because I like putting negative here. So, and we know our first point at C2, it's actually 2. What can I subtract to 2? Okay, and then we're going to make use of C2 and C1. So it will be, we're going to make use of those two, and then those two, and last those two. And the thing is, we're using the row that is already have a 0 or a 1, just to make it easier for us. So it's gonna be, if it's C2, so we're going to make use of C1. Okay, and let's do the same for this. So it will be C3 negative C1. I have the sign that we're going to define it later on. C1 and C3. So let me just remove the sign. And what is C3? C3 is actually 3. And then C4 is actually 2. So this is what we have now. And C1 on the first second row, it's actually 2. No, it's actually C1. So we're having there. Okay, and what is C1? C1, it's always been this is where we have a C1, and our C1 is always 1. So that's what we're going to put here. 1 if we add here. Now the question is, what can you do to make it 0 if we can assume that there's a negative sign here? So in order to make it 0, what we do, we're going to add a 2 there. Negative, in order to make this one 0, we're going to add a 3 there, so that it can be 0. In order to make it 0, we're going to add a 2 there, so it's gonna make it 0. So these are the formula that we're gonna use to solve to move on our next phase. So I'm going just to copy what I need, so then I can carry on with the work that I'm supposed to complete. Okay, and this is what we have. This is what we have. And what formula we're using? Let's start with the first one, which is C2 equal to 2 C1 minus C2. And this is what we have. And in order to make it, we're going to apply this into C2. Okay, so we're going to solve to take these two together. So it will be C1 everything here and C2 everything there. So watch and see. So for this one, it's gonna be C1, which is 2 times 1, what we have there, negative C2, and then which give us 0, and that's what we're going to put here. Okay, and next it will be the second one. It will be those two. So 2, what is C1? It's actually 0, negative 1, which is going to give us negative 1. So this is what we're going to have here, negative 1. Then let's go further. Lastly, it will be 0, negative 1. This is actually negative and negative. It will give us plus 1. So we're not going to have 0, negative. It will be just positive. And this is where we're going to get that negative on the last one. So this is what we'll get here. Okay, let's continue with this other one. So we just use this formula. We just move there. Let's use this data formula, which is C3, 3, C1, negative 3. So where is C1? This is where we have C1 and C3. Okay, now we're going to solve with these two. So it will be 3 times C1, which is 1, negative C3, which is 3, and the answer is 0. Okay, next 3 C1, which is 0, minus C3, which is 1, and the answer will be negative 1. Okay, so this is what we're going to have here, negative 1. Okay, and just making sure. Then let's continue. And before we move to that, I want just to see what was there before. Okay, it was actually negative. It was actually 1. So that's why we're going to have a negative 1 here. Let's continue. Next, 3 times 0, negative 1. And the answer will be negative 1. So we're going to have a negative 1 there. This is what we're going to get here. And let's continue with the last one, which is C4 equal 2 times C1, negative C4. And now we got something like this. Let's just continue. So it will give us, in order to solve, so we're going to make use of these two row column. Okay, and then we're going to start with 1 and 2. C1, which is 1, negative C4, which is 2. And the answer will be 0. Okay, let's continue. This one, it will be 0, negative 3, which is going to give us negative 3. So we're going to have a negative 2, 0, negative 3, which is going to give us negative 3. So we will have negative sign there. Okay, now there is one thing with matrices. Okay, we can keep them like this, or we can remove the negative sign. But let's just continue. We actually don't need to try to change those in there. we can leave them like that, and then let's continue so that you can see what will happen next. Okay, and it says once you're done, so we started here, we moved here, so to convert, and then after that we move to this section, and then after that we're going to go to this, make it as 1. Since it's already 1, it's fine. And then once we're done with this, we're going to turn this one into 0. That's what we do next. And then after that we'll go and work with this. Okay, and then that's what we're going to do. So we actually at this phase, so since this one is already 1, we're going to switch to this phase. How we can make this one 0? That's what we're gonna do now. Okay, so just remove what I added, and now we got ourselves this block. We're not yet done. And as we said, our main focus is here. How we're going to make it 0? Okay, now what we're going to do here in order to make it 0, we're going to solve it using row 3. So we're only gonna use R2, R3, and always remember that we have this formula that we also use to solve this kind of problem. So what I will do is, let me just move this one here. So in order to turn this one into 0, so we're actually trying to make okay, which is, if we have to make it it's actually row 3 and column 2. How we can make this one 0? So that's what we're trying to do. So if we go with like I told you, so this is what we actually use. And then since we're working with R2, so since we're working with R2, in this time we're using R2 when we solve vertically, and then when we solve horizontally we use column. So in our case, we going to see if so let me just make it as a row. This one should be as row, and this one is as row, and then it should be, and here we're going to put R2. This is what we have. We need to figure out a way to make it equal 0. So this is what we have. So we need to make it equal 0. So let's just figure out a way to make it equal 0. What do we know? This one at this phase is actually -1. Okay. In what way can you make it 0? And what is R2? It's actually 1. Okay. In order to make it 0, what we do is we're going to negative. Now we're going to put just positive. We'll go just with a positive sign there. I think to make it 0. So 1 plus -1 will give us 0. Alright, we just got ourselves the solution. So that let me just remove what I added there. So this is what we're going to apply in order to solve this. Now let's go with the first, so it should be 0 plus 0, which gives us 0. So here we're going to remain with 0, so nothing is going to change. So we're still going to have a 0 here. Now let's solve those two. It will be 1 negative 1, positive negative 1, as you can see, R2 and R3, which is going to give us 0. So we're going to have a 0 here. Let's continue. Negative 1, okay, negative 1, that's what we have. So it's actually negative 1, negative 1. And the answer to this, it will be negative 1 plus 1, which gives us 0. So we're going to have a 0 here. Okay, let's continue. Negative 3 and negative 3, so it will be negative 3, negative 3, which is going to give us 0. So we got 0 here. Alright, so this is what we have, and as you can see, what we're going to do next will be, okay, so what we're going to do next will be to make this one to be zeros. Okay, so we can have an identity matrix. So what we're going to do next will be to find a way to make those two 0, and this is what we're trying. So it will be since we're working horizontally, we're not gonna use row, we're going to use column. So, and then it will be, we're actually trying to make row 2 3, we actually to make this one 0, and then we also trying to make, see this one, it's actually 2 4. We're actually trying to make it 0. So, and in this one we're using row 3. Now for now, since we are trying to solve them, we will keep them like this, in this form, and remember, always put this one here. So, and then the new folder. Okay, so this is what we're trying to do, and then we're going to use C2. We're going to use C2. Okay, and how to use C2? We're going to use C2. Okay, so this is what we're going to use, and remember, what is C2? C2 at this level, it's just 1 in both. On the second row, it's always 1. And then what is C1 on the second row? C3 on the second row, it's actually negative 1. And this one is negative 3. Now the question is, how can you make it 0? So how can we make it 0? Okay, and the answer to that is, if you put just positive here, the answer will be 0 on the first one. And here, even if we put positive, we still need to have with times 3, so that can make it, we can get 0. So this is what we have. Now we're going to continue solving. Okay, let me just do this, copy. I think I don't have space here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to continue this side. Just straight put a line here to separate them. So this is what we have. Okay, this is the formula we're using. So And then just correct the formula, I'm going to remove the two subscript that you see there, just to make it I'm going to remove the two subscript. It was just to give you an idea. Okay, let me zoom in. There we go. Now what we're going to do, we'll take this one and this one. So then what we're going to get, it should be something like this. What is the value? We're going to start with this two. Okay, 0 and 0. So what is the answer? 0 plus 0, which will give me 0. So the answer to this, we're still gonna get 0. Okay, and let's try these two. Okay, and as you can see, it should be C2, which is 1, plus C3, which is negative 1, which will give me 0. So the answer to this will be 0. Okay, let's continue with this last row. So it will be 0 plus 0, which give me 0. So the answer to this, which will be 0. Now let's take the second formula, so we can use it now. Okay, this is the second formula we're going to apply here. So we need to calculate C4. It should be 3 times C2 plus C4. So since we're working to be only these two that we're going to make use of. Okay, and what we're going to get on the first, it will be just these two, 0 and 0. So it will be 0 and 0, and the answer to this will be 0. So on the first, we'll get the answer as 0. Now we continue. It's actually C2, which is 1, plus C4, negative 3, equal 0. So that's why we're going to put 0 here. And then let's continue. 3, 0 plus 0, which gives us 0. So this is based on these two. And then we're going to replace this one with 0. So now we go to this. This is our answer. This is our answer. So and then just to push it further, I'm going just to show you what we said earlier. If you look to this at this form, this is an identity matrix. Okay, if you go back to this form, we are trying to make a identity matrix that you see there. Okay, that's what we are trying to do. Now we got this form, and the way that we're going to represent it, and we're going to represent it as identity matrix, and the size is 2. You check here, so until C2, row 2, that's why we're calling identity matrix of 2. And then you put 0 and 0 and 0. So this is the answer to this question. And this is where we actually apply normalization. If let me just write it. This is what we call normal form method. Okay, that is what we say, normal form method. And rank matrix, and from the rank matrix we got I2. So meaning rank of 2. Rank of A equal to 2. That's the rank we got from our matrix. And this is how you do normal method.